Is Urijah Faber next for Henry Cejudo? This is the Battle Camp. Please hit the subscribe button. You'll find it in the bottom right hand corner of your screen. Alright, so I was unable to make any videos over the weekend. And, sorry, what's that? Oh, you want to know why? How kind of you to ask. It's because I went camping over the weekend. I was far, far away from my comfortable home. I was out in the sticks near the mountains with no phone coverage, which means I was unable to keep up to date with anything that was going on in the MMA and boxing world. And fuck me, it was an eventful weekend because a lot of good things happened in the UFC and there were some exciting fights in the boxing in the UK. So, like I said, I was literally in a tent lying on Saturday night wondering what's happening in the fights. And when we got in the car to get home, I looked at Twitter and I'd seen that Urijah fucking Faber, the California kid, the California fucking kid, had made his comeback to the UFC. And not only did he make his comeback, he got a first round KO victory over Ricky Simon. Now, full disclosure, I am a big MMA fan, as you guys know. But Ricky Simon is a guy that I was unaware of. I genuinely did not have any idea who he was until it got announced that he was going to be fighting Urijah Faber. During the week, I did have a look at the odds, and I saw Urijah Faber was the underdog. And I looked at Ricky Simon's record. I love pronouncing that name. I looked at his record, and I thought to myself, why is Urijah Faber such an underdog? It's probably just because he's been out for so long and, you know, what's it called, ring rust and stuff like that. But I'm not saying that I thought Urijah Faber was definitely going to win. I just didn't put a bet on it because I didn't know enough about Ricky Simon. And I'm going to come to that a little bit later. But anyway, the reason why I'm making this video is since that victory and since his conversation with Joe Rogan in the Octagon, where he basically called out Henry Cejudo, and Henry Cejudo bit, and Henry Cejudo has been responding, and they've been going back and forth on Twitter. And just earlier on today, Henry Cejudo uploaded a video where he basically told Urijah Faber to get on his skateboard, skate all the way to Yugoslavia, and bend the knee, which didn't make sense for several reasons, and I'll explain them to you. Firstly, Yugoslavia is a nation that no longer exists. If you look at a map, there's no such thing as Yugoslavia. It's been broken up into different countries, so he'll have a hard time going there. Secondly, when you bend the knee, you're meant to bend the knee in front of the person himself. You're meant to stand in front of the man and bend the knee and say, I'm bending my knee to you. What is the purpose in him going all the way to fucking Yugoslavia to bend the knee? You're meant to be in the same fucking room. You're meant to do it right in front of each other. Do you know what I mean? If you actually do watch Game of Thrones and you know what the fuck's going on. But anyway, I'm going way off topic. The reason I'm making this video is because it seems like this fight is actually gathering steam. Like there's an actual possibility, there's potential of these two fighting each other for the bantamweight title. But should that be the fight? Is that the fight? Why, like, who else is out there? What other challenges are there? What other contenders are there? I'll fucking tell you guys. You got three contenders, in my opinion. You got Joseph Benavidez in the flyweight division. You got Aljamain Sterling and Petr Yan in the bantamweight division. And I'm going to tell you guys who I think should be facing Henry Cejudo next. So, Joseph Benavidez. He looked very impressive against Urijah Faber in his fight when they fought each other in late June. So that was on the Ngannou dos Santos undercard. And that head kick and that finish, boy, he looked very impressive. And he's by far and away the #1 contender in the flyweight division. In addition to that, he's also the last person to beat Henry Cejudo. So he's got like a two-pronged attack to stake a claim for that title. Because he can say, look, I'm the #1 contender in the flyweight division. There's no one better than me. And also, I'm the last guy that beat you. We had a close fight, but I got the decision. So he's got a genuine I'm going to use the same term again. He's got a genuine stake to that claim, right? And then you got Petr Yan. Petr Yan's looked very impressive. And he's been on a really good run in the UFC so far. He hasn't lost in the UFC actually so far, and he's beaten some good names. He's beaten the Japanese guy Ishihara along the way, and he's also beaten Dodson and Jimmy Rivera. And you got to remember, Jimmy Rivera was a guy that was on the cusp of a title shot himself, you know, before he lost to Who did he lose to? I think Marlon Moraes was the guy that kind of was the first guy that beat him along that put an end to his unbeaten run. I'm gonna have to check this now because that's what I'm like. I'm a fucking idiot like that. So let me have a look. Who was the first guy? Yeah, it was Marlon Moraes. I was correct, 100% correct. Anyway, so that's Peter Yan, but I feel like Peter Yan's one fight away. He isn't quite there yet, and I'll explain to you why. Because Aljamain Sterling has also beaten Jimmy Rivera, but on top of that, he's also beaten Pedro Munoz. And you got to remember, Pedro Munoz knocked Cody Garbrandt out, and he kind of shot up the rankings, and he was right in that mix. And Aljamain Sterling beat Munoz, so I'd say Aljamain Sterling's two biggest victories now in the bantamweight division are better, I suppose, than Peter Yan. So I'd put Aljamain Sterling ahead of Peter Yan, although I wouldn't be angry if Yan got a shot, right? So now we're down to two: Aljamain Sterling and Joseph Benavidez. Who deserves the shot? My head is saying Joseph Benavidez, because if Henry Cejudo is going to be the champ, he beat Demetrius Johnson, and then he fought what's this, TJ Dillashaw in his own division. Then he stepped up and beat Marlon Moraes. So I think he should go back down at to 125, fight there, and then come back up to 135. So in my head, it should be Benavidez. In my heart, it should be Aljamain Sterling. Why? Because I'm biased. I like Aljamain Sterling. I followed his career ever since he joined the UFC. I've seen his ups and I've seen his downs. I think he's looked very, very, very impressive recently. And I enjoy the fact that he's true to himself. He's a character that isn't playing a character. Does that make sense? So I like his personality. I like his persona. I like how he's on social media. I like how he comes across in interviews. I really enjoyed his Joe Rogan appearance. But the thing that I like the most about him, it seems like he's being true to himself. He's not playing a role of a fighter. He's just being who he is. He's just being himself, and I gravitate towards his personality. I like him, and I like his fighting style. And I think him against Cejudo would be an interesting matchup, just because obviously he isn't as strong as a wrestler as Cejudo is, but he's a strong wrestler himself. He's a lot bigger than Cejudo, and his stand up is a style that I think Cejudo will have some trouble in working out, basically. So I just think that's a really intriguing matchup. So that's my take on it. But this Uriah Faber thing just keeps popping up in the back of my head, because look, it's the entertainment era in the UFC. So if you were to list all of those names, who's the biggest name? It's by far Uriah Faber. And this is a story, isn't it? A guy that retired. He was out for, what was it, 2 years, 3 years? He's come back, he's got a win, and now he's got a title shot. It's kind of like the reverse of a Cinderella story, if that makes sense. Like, there's an intriguing backstory. Someone that has had multiple title shots, but he's never quite achieved it. The fact that Cejudo's going back and forth with Uriah Faber, that's obviously going to play into the minds of the powers that be at UFC. I have a feeling that Uriah Faber's going to get it. I have a feeling that Uriah Faber is going to challenge for the bantamweight title. And who would have thought it, eh? Literally 2 weeks ago, who would have thought it? Like, even though we knew 2 weeks ago that Uriah Faber is making his comeback, who would have thought it would be one fight, a win against Ricky Simon, a guy that I hadn't heard of, and he wasn't on my radar. And there's two ways of getting on my radar. Not that I'm the gateway to earning a title shot, but like, it's either fighters that are characters and or make noise on social media during interviews, etc., etc., or it's someone that's exceptional fighting style, and you have to kind of sit up and pay attention. And I'm not saying Ricky Simon isn't a great fighter, but he just didn't get my attention yet, and he'd been in the UFC for a couple of years. Do you know what I mean? Like, a win against him shouldn't warrant a title shot. It's everything else that goes with being a fighter that is in Uriah Faber's favor, Uriah Faber's favor for him getting a title shot. And the reason why I feel like Henry Cejudo is favoring Uriah Faber, it's not because he feels like it's the easiest fight. It's just the fight that'll probably get him the biggest payday. And that's what that's the main goal for these guys at the end of the day, isn't it? You can't knock it, you can't hate him for it, but that's just what the UFC is now. It's becoming less and less important to earn a title shot through beating legit competition, and more importance is being put on fame, notoriety, building a buzz on social media. That's a bit of a shame. The only person that I'd say of late that's done that side of the business really, really well, that does deserve a title shot, is Jorge Masvidal, because he's done it in the cage and he's done it outside the cage. Whereas I feel like Aljamain, Sterling, Benavidez have done it inside the cage, maybe not so much outside the cage, and Urijah Faber's done it all outside the cage, or not so much in the cage. So it'll be really interesting to see what the UFC do. Who do they go with? What do you guys think? Put your comments below. Who do you think should be the next contender for Cejudo? Should he be fighting in the flyweight division or the bantamweight division? And what do you make of my assessment of this current predicament that we have with the flyweight and the bantamweight divisions? Comment below. Don't be scared to hit the like button. Share this with a friend if you've enjoyed it. And obviously, if you haven't already, hit the subscribe button. I'll catch you guys on the next one.